Hi, everybody.
Hello, Signe.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Hello, hello. How are you? And where are you?
I'm well. I'm in Lithuania, in capital Vilnius.
In office or at the home office
Yes,
or
I'm at the
in
office.
gym or?
Yes, I'm at the office. Briefly to introduce, my name is Heemann. I'm a partner at the law firm BNT Attorneys in CE and co-head of the insolvency and restructuring practice of that firm. I'm located, as I mentioned, in Vilnius, Lithuania, and INSOL Europe has entrusted me with a responsibility to be the country coordinator for this country, Lithuania.
And
Edvins.
here we have also Edvins.
My name is Edvins. I'm a senior associate with Sorainen law firm, and I'm an INSOL Europe country coordinator for Latvia. I'm in Latvia, but not in my office, not even in my home office. I'm in the countryside.
You're already on the beach. That's nice. So I'm
Almost.
Signe. I'm from Estonia, also country coordinator for INSOL Europe in Estonia in this particular matter. So Elma gave us a task to cover, which is related to the COVID in our lovely countries. So perhaps you have some words to say about your situation at the moment. I don't know who will start. Frank, you or Edvins or?
Yeah, I can start. So very briefly, like other European countries, Lithuania has been in lockdown since the middle of March. Formally, we are still in lockdown. The conditions or the restrictions of this lockdown have been continuously eased starting of May. So at the moment, there are some restrictions, but life is pretty much back to normal. And the government has this week announced that the major part of this lockdown, which is called quarantine regime, will be lifted on the 17th of June. So this is the situation at the moment.
Okay, what about Latvia, Edvins?
Yes, so of course we had the lockdown, and it's also being eased. The extraordinary situation has been terminated this Wednesday, and if you look on the situation on the street, it's quite sharp contrast with what we have seen in March, for example. So surely life is gradually returning back to normal, and regarding, for example, our office, we have been, well, in March we have been advised to work from home primarily. Now we are more or less free to choose whether we work from home office or we work from the real office. So it's more like a choice of each particular employee, and we are trying to sit one person per cabinet, one person per room.
Good. As for Estonia, of course, we had also lockdown, which was actually ended already in mid-May. The exact date was 17th. So almost 1 month now, quite relaxed atmosphere here already. As you probably know, we have already, option to travel freely between Latvia and Lithuania. And since next Monday, also our lovely neighbors from Finland can actually visit us in Estonia. So yes, life is actually gradually coming back to new normal, I would say. So what about the insolvencies or restructuring? Do you know anything? What's the current situation in your country?
Yeah, we have from a legal framework side, we have had some emergency measures or changes in the law that were taken in April, and have a couple of components, but the most important ones are, in my opinion, a moratorium, so to speak, of the obligation of a the management of companies facing distress. So they are released from the obligation to file for insolvency with the court. Some other insolvency-related obligations are in place still, so the directors should be careful. But in general, you don't have to file for insolvency with the court during the period of the quarantine and 3 months after the quarantine ends. So this means that if the quarantine ends 17th of June until mid of September, management is released from the obligation to address the court and to open bankruptcy proceedings. Another kind of protective measures in this scenario is the restriction of the possibilities for creditors to open or to file for insolvency proceedings. And this will end as soon as the quarantine regime ends. So this means mid of June, creditors would be able to file for insolvency. Okay, so this is basically on a legal framework side. In short, more details are available on the homepage of INSOL Europe. So interested persons can look it up there, or of course ask me. In practice, we have actually, both from what we witness in our firm and what statistics show, we have a decline in numbers of insolvency, which probably can be traced back or linked to these protective measures. So it's not that we have a big wave of insolvency and restructurings at the moment. Apart from that, business is going on partly as usual, except for maybe larger transactions or real estate deals that require financing, third-party financing. So this kind of business, at least in our firm, is a little bit slower or put on hold. And yeah, regarding statistics, I mentioned it, the number of corporate insolvencies has actually declined. If you compare the period January of this year until June this year to the same period of 2019, we have a decline of a little bit more than 1/3. So 740 cases last year compared to 400 something this year. With regard to restructuring proceedings, just to give a perspective, we are talking about, if I'm not mistaken, 11 or 12 cases in this year, during this year, compared to 11 or 12 cases last year. So we have more or less the same number. What is noteworthy is that we have a completely new insolvency law in effect since the 1st of January of this year. So looking at the graphs and so on of these statistics, one must be a little bit careful before coming to a conclusion whether some developments are due to the corona pandemic situation and governmental measures, which I have outlined, or whether they can be traced back to the changes in the general insolvency legal framework. But as mentioned, the overall number of insolvency has declined, and if you look at the graphs, you can more or less pinpoint it to the time when this coronavirus crisis related governmental measures were put in place. So,
okay, thank you very much for the overview in Lithuania. So Edvins, what's happening in Latvia? What's hot, what's not?
Yes, in Latvia, as regards the legal framework, there is a prohibition for creditors to file for insolvency of their debtors, which is in effect until 1st of September and is not industry specific. At the same time, the obligation of the management to file for insolvency of their own company is still in place. And it's quite natural that due to this prohibition for creditors to file for insolvency, there is a decline in insolvency cases, and we in practice in our firm have not been faced with a surge of insolvency currently. At the same time, we envisage that there should be increase in the number of restructuring cases, although at the same time, up-to-date restructuring proceedings have not been very popular or very successful in Latvia. I think it's across all our region, more or less the same pattern. And there are also several measures in place related to kind of making legislation more data friendly as regards debt collection proceedings, also regarding statutory interest and the statute of limitation, which has also been halted until that coronavirus situation ends. And yes, as regards the amount of work, we do not experience an increase in the insolvency cases. At the same time, we have an increased interest of clients regarding the insolvency legislation as such, and an option to restructure the debts, especially taking into account that in autumn, when that prohibition for creditors to file will be lifted, which happens on the 2nd of September, then we would need to see what will happen next.
Okay, interesting. As for Estonia, I would say that the situation is quite similar to yours. I don't see any increase of insolvencies or restructuring. There were some cases just before this lockdown was announced in March. These were related to real estate projects, big ones. But at the moment, I would say that everything is very stable, and we also had this moratorium clause. So this particular change in bankruptcy law in order to debtors not to file insolvency during lockdown period and 2 months after that. So I would say that probably autumn will be much more interesting for practitioners. Time will tell. And we have quite unique unemployment fund in Estonia as well, who has been actually giving lots of subsidies to employees and employers even. So in this regard, there's also some sort of like ease, and I don't see a huge increase of unemployment immediately. Although, as I noticed yesterday, I think there was some news that in May the increase has been 7%. But it's not a huge one still, and I think that the summer will be quite relaxed. But yeah, apart from that, everything in Estonia is anyhow digital, so life goes on, and we will see what will happen in autumn. And regarding maybe the situation, what happens in courts at the moment, again, I would say that summertime is quite chill, and then since autumn probably the workload will increase, but we have option to actually have meetings and conferences via electronic means, not only oral hearings. And I think that this is the same in Lithuania and Latvia as well, right?
Well, yes, and in Lithuania, the court system has been run on an electronic platform for many years now. So no need to adapt there. Documents are uploaded and downloaded and so on, distributed online. Usually we have oral hearings, at least in first instance and in normal civil procedures. And due to Corona, recommendation was to do this only if it cannot be avoided. Court presidents got the discretion or could at their discretion decide on how to, let's say, maybe use online platforms like Zoom, Teams or Skype or others in order to do at least virtual hearings if hearings could not be postponed or done in writing by written procedure. And this has been tested, and at least where I have participated and colleagues of mine, that worked quite well. So what I can say is that the court system was not interrupted, or the functioning of the court systems was not interrupted due to this pandemic and the restrictions. Don't
Yes.
know. We're probably similar. Edvins.
Yeah, very similar to Estonia. Yeah. What about Latvia, Edvins?
I think it's mostly the same. I think the country was more or less prepared for going digital. Previously, yes, we have also we have been using digital signatures, and we have been using the digital platform records as well. Previously, we have also been using court hearings via video conferences previously, and of course there was a restriction in the amount of court hearings being taken orally, or you needed to wear a mask on your face if you attend one oral hearing. Now it's gradually returning back to normal, but we have one additional norm in the civil procedure law which says that the judge should consider if the procedural rights of the parties can be obeyed without taking an oral hearing. Then maybe it's better to have it in written proceeding and save some costs as well.
Mm.
So
it's quite similar to Estonia. In Estonia also the presidents or heads of courts can actually delegate work in different districts in Estonia as well. So it would not be overloaded only in Harju or in Tallinn courts. So it could be also delegated to some other regions. So
yes, it's the same in Latvia.
Okay, nice. It seems to me that we are running out of time. And if you have some last remarks, when this is now your chance to say something which the audience should know. From my side, welcome to Estonia. The borders are open. You can just come and enjoy summer here. And we will see what will happen in autumn.
Maybe one quick round with regard to this implementation of the Restructuring Insolvency Directive. At least for Lithuania, I can say this is basically a non-topic, just for some nerds in general. And I cannot see any indication that due to this coronavirus economic crisis, there would be an acceleration of any kind of measures to have these directive implemented. I don't know. What about you?
We are implementing, but also not because of the COVID-19, but just that there is some sort of a deadline and we have to do it.
It's
what about
mostly
Latvia?
The same in Latvia. Previously the notion was that we are fully compliant with the directive, and now, nonetheless, the project has been started to implement the directive with the Latvian legislation. And yes, that project has been started prior to coronavirus. So I think the life goes on in parallel. So yes.
Anyway,
okay.
Thank you very much for your time, and hope to see you and meet you in person soon again.
Yeah, jump on the plane and fly to Vilnius.
Yes, I can do that.
It was good talking to you.
Yeah,
Thank
enjoy
you.
your afternoon.
Goodbye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.